The vast, cold void of the Andari's expanse stretched out beyond the reinforced viewports of the Andari vessel Valiant Dawn. The ship glided silently through the inky blackness, illuminated only by distant stars and the faint glow of nebulae that scattered light like fractured gemstones inside the command deck. The hum of consoles and the soft chime of incoming data streams filled the air, accompanied by the occasional murmur from the crew. Commander Ryler Vale stood at the forefront, arms crossed tightly over his chest, his piercing eyes locked on the swirling storm of colors just beyond the viewport. His face, a portrait of sharp angles and stern resolve, was cast in the shifting hues of starlight and the soft blue glow from the tactical readouts. His mind raced as he processed the latest information scrolling across the displays. "The signal is persistent," reported sub-scientist Leora Keth, her voice calm yet tinged with unease. She stood to Ryler's left, a data tablet in hand, the Andari script flickering across its surface. "It's broadcasting on a frequency long abandoned by our people, ancient encryption, predating the Confederation's earliest expansions." Ryler exhaled slowly through his nose, considering her words. "Have we pinpointed the source?" Leora tapped a few commands, projecting a three-dimensional map of the region. A rogue planet, unmoored from any star, drifted slowly across the void, encircled by swirling clouds of debris and smaller shattered celestial bodies. "There," she said, highlighting the lonely world. "System designated as Epsilon 6 by our star cartographers. Uninhabited records indicate it was avoided due to gravitational instability and anomalies in dark matter readings." The rogue planet was an eerie sight, a solitary wanderer in the emptiness of space. Its surface appeared lifeless and scarred, with impact craters pockmarking the terrain and deep fissures running like veins across barren continents. Yet, from this forsaken rock emanated the cryptic signal, steady and unwavering. Ryler's jaw tightened. "Bring us into orbit, cloaked." The helmsman nodded, initiating silent thruster bursts that adjusted the ship's trajectory. Leora shifted uneasily. "Commander, shouldn't we inform High Command? A relic of this magnitude?" "High Command will only mire this mission in bureaucracy," Ryler interrupted. "We assess first if it's truly of Genesis-era origin. The Confederation must secure it before the Terrans do." Leora lowered her gaze, biting back further protest. She knew Ryler's reputation, a commander with little patience for protocol when the stakes were high. As the Valiant Dawn crept closer to Epsilon 6, additional readings streamed in atmospheric composition, thin, but laced with trace elements suggesting ancient terraforming efforts. Seismic activity, dormant, yet with signs of energy flux deep beneath the crust. "Commander," the helmsman said, "we are now in low orbit. Cloaking field is stable." Ryler strode toward the central console, magnifying the visual feed. The rogue planet's desolation seemed to cloak secrets in its silence amid the broken terrain. Something unnatural caught Ryler's eye. "There," he murmured. Nestled within a deep canyon was a structure, partially obscured by millennia of dust and rockfall. Smooth geometric lines and towering spires hinted at technology far beyond the Andari's most ambitious engineering feats. Even buried and weathered, it radiated an undeniable sense of ancient power. Leora's breath caught. It matches Genesis architectural patterns." Ryler's eyes gleamed. "Prepare a reconnaissance team, we're going down." Before Leora could respond, a new alert flared across the console. "Commander," the ship's tactical officer interjected. "We've detected an anomaly, cloaked satellite in polar orbit, non-Andari designed power signature faint, but active." Ryler's lips pressed into a thin line. "Terrans?" Leora shook her head. "Possibly, but the design is older, pre-Exodus era, perhaps even pre-Terran unification." The silence on the bridge grew heavy as each crew member exchanged wary glances. Ryler's voice lowered, almost to a growl. "Someone has been here before us, perhaps even before either of our civilizations rose to the stars." The signal from the planet continued to pulse steadily, like a heartbeat beneath the surface. The void around them seemed to tighten, as if the expanse itself was holding its breath. In the shadows of a forgotten world, the game had begun. The barren world known to the galactic charts as N472 was anything but lifeless. Beneath its rugged mountains and wind-scoured plains lay hidden the last outpost of a civilization humanity never knew existed. Commander Zareth stood at the apex of a subterranean control center, a towering figure clad in obsidian armor. His reptilian features illuminated by the soft glow of archaic yet powerful machines, his crimson eyes narrowed at the streams of data cascading across the main console. "They've breached our sanctuary," Zareth growled, his voice a guttural echo through the cavernous chamber. The holographic display projected the intruding vessel, the human scout ship, bright and out of place amid the void's darkness. General Thyra, a seasoned tactician and Zareth's second-in-command, approached, her claws clicking against the polished stone floor. "The human's presence was not expected. Their technology is primitive, yet their ship appears resilient. Should we eliminate them before they probe deeper?" Zareth contemplated his people. The Dravari had hidden in exile for centuries following a war that nearly extinguished them. The humans had stumbled upon a secret the Dravari could not afford to expose yet. He sensed something more, an anomaly in the humans' arrival, a disturbance in the ancient prophecies. "No," Zareth replied after a tense pause. "Not yet. Prepare the envoy. We will watch them. If they draw too close to the core, then we strike." Far above the Dravari's subterranean bastion, Captain Naiva Sterling paced the bridge of the ESS Valiant, the crew still shaken from the near encounter with the alien entity. The revelation that their cloaking technology had been compromised set off alarms in the minds of every officer present. Naiva stopped before the main viewport, the planet's surface casting an ochre hue against the Valiant's reinforced glass. "Lieutenant Kane, status report," she commanded. "We're stable in high orbit. Captain sensors still show the anomaly near the equatorial range, massive energy readings coming from under the surface," Kane replied, adjusting his headset. Sterling frowned. "No trace of the alien vessel?" "None since it disappeared behind the fourth moon, ma'am." "Helmsman, maintain distance, keep us cloaked. I want no surprises." She ordered. Her fingers subconsciously traced the edge of the insignia pinned to her uniform, the weight of responsibility gnawing at her resolve. Chief Science Officer Rami alone, hunched over his console, raised his voice. "Captain, those energy signatures, they're artificial, and old. We're talking millennia. Whatever is beneath that planet isn't natural." Sterling's eyes narrowed. "Could it be a remnant of an extinct civilization?" Rami nodded hesitantly. "Possibly, but the output is active, not decaying. Something is still operating those systems." The bridge quieted. The implications were staggering. Humanity had long theorized about ancient galactic civilizations, but to find undeniable proof? This mission could redefine the trajectory of human history. "Assemble a reconnaissance team," Sterling ordered. "We're going down." Hours later, in the Valiant's hangar bay, Naiva and her team suited up in advanced atmospheric armor. The squad included Lieutenant Kane, Rami alone, and 2 Marines, Sergeant Lexa Vaughn and Corporal Idris Holt. "Check your comms and exosuits," Kane instructed, strapping his rifle to his back. "We have no intel on the terrain or hostiles. Stay sharp." The dropship's bay doors sealed shut as the thrusters ignited, propelling them toward the desolate surface below. The tension within the cramped confines of the shuttle was palpable. As the dropship pierced through the planet's thin atmosphere, it was met with turbulent winds and sporadic electromagnetic surges. The controls jolted in Alone's grip. "Interference is worse than we thought," he muttered, struggling to stabilize their descent. Lexa peered out the small viewport. The planet's surface stretched out like a scarred wasteland, mountainous ridges carved by ancient tectonic forces, deep chasms veiled in perpetual shadow, and unnatural formations protruding from the terrain like skeletal remains. "Looks like hell itself down there," Idris commented grimly. The dropship landed within a jagged canyon, hidden from aerial surveillance but perilously close to the source of the energy signals. "Move out," Naiva commanded as the ramp lowered, revealing the dust-choked landscape. The team advanced cautiously, guided by the flickering signal beacons Rami placed at intervals. Strange carvings adorned the canyon walls, symbols no one could decipher, but all could feel an oppressive presence weighed down on them. "Captain," Rami whispered, his voice tense. "These markings, they're similar to glyphs found in pre-human sites on Mars and Europa. It can't be coincidence." Naiva's mind raced. Had humanity already been influenced by these beings long before venturing into space? Suddenly, Lexa froze, her weapon trained on a shadow emerging from a crevice ahead. "Contact!" she hissed. A tall figure stepped into view, draped in dark metallic robes, its face hidden beneath a hood. It radiated an aura of cold, ancient authority. "Identify yourself," Naiva demanded, raising her weapon. The figure responded by raising a hand, palm outward, before speaking in a guttural, melodic tone. Miraculously, the translator began piecing fragments together. "You tread where you should not," the figure warned. "We're explorers," Sterling replied cautiously. "We seek knowledge, not conflict. Who are you?" The being's crimson eyes flickered beneath the hood. "I am Vatek, envoy of the Dravari. This world is forbidden to your kind. Leave, or face extinction." Before Naiva could respond, the ground trembled. Distant roars echoed through the canyon, and massive structures shifted as if awakening. "Captain," Brahmi warned. "Those energy spikes just quadrupled." Vatek vanished into the shadows as a towering war machine rose from the chasm beyond, a Dravari sentinel, its colossal frame armored in dark alloys and pulsing with violet energy. "Fall back!" Naiva ordered as the sentinel's arm cannons ignited, hurling bolts of plasma. The team scattered, narrowly avoiding the blasts that scorched the rock around them. Idris returned fire, but his rounds deflected harmlessly. As the firefight raged, Naiva realized the sentinel was forcing them deeper into the canyon. The only way out was forward, toward the ancient complex beyond the beast. Her pulse quickened. They had uncovered something humanity wasn't ready for, something ancient, powerful, and unwilling to be found. But retreat wasn't an option now. They would press on, or die trying. The crew of the ISS Dauntless stood frozen as the alien ship's response echoed ominously on the bridge. Commander Renata Calderon kept her gaze steady, but her mind worked furiously to determine their next move. The cold, clinical voice of the alien Captain Vale reverberated in the tense air. "Surrender your vessel. Failure to comply will be interpreted as an act of war." Renata felt every eye on her, waiting for her response. She drew a deep breath. "Open a private channel to Admiral Stokes," she instructed Ensign Malik. As Malik worked, Lieutenant Cato approached. "Commander, if we surrender, we risk giving them access to Terran military secrets, but if we fight—" Renata completed the thought. "We might not survive." Malik spoke up. "Private channel established." Renata nodded and turned toward the console. "Admiral, you heard them orders?" The Admiral's image flickered onto the console. His face was grim. "You are to maintain your position but avoid hostilities at all costs. By us time, Commander, reinforcements are en route." "Understood, sir," Renata replied. She closed the channel and faced her crew. "We're not giving up. The Dauntless prepared defensive protocols, but no one fires unless I give the order." Cato frowned but nodded. "Yes, Commander." The alien ship loomed on the main view screen, its weapons now visibly charged. Vale's voice returned. "You delay surrender now." Renata stepped forward, confidence in her voice. "Captain Vale, we are a peaceful expedition. We have no quarrel with your people. Lower your weapons, and we can discuss terms." Vale's silence stretched painfully long. "Finally," he responded. "You have 1 Terran minute." As the crew scrambled to prepare for what could be a firefight, Malik spoke quietly to Renata. "Commander, I'm detecting subtle energy fluctuations from their ship, similar to when they first arrived." Renata's mind clicked into gear. "They're hiding something, Cato. Scan for subspace activity." Cato worked quickly. "Confirm they're attempting to mask the signature of another vessel. Something's emerging behind the first ship." Renata's heart pounded. "Put it on screen." A second alien vessel, sleeker and smaller, shimmered into view. It was positioned behind the larger ship, as if preparing to flank them. "They're trying to surround us," Cato muttered. Renata's jaw tightened. "They're baiting us into surrender while positioning a secondary force." Vale spoke again. "Your time is up." Renata made a split-second decision. "Transmit a message. We are willing to negotiate, but we will not surrender. Any hostile action will be met with a defensive response." Vale's tone darkened. "So be it." The alien ships powered up their weapons. "Shields to maximum," Renata ordered. The first volley came fast, a barrage of energy bolts streaking toward the Dauntless. The ship shuddered violently under the impact, but the shields held. "Minimal shield degradation," Cato reported. "Return fire," Renata commanded. "Target their weapons systems. Precision only." Dauntless fired back, its pulse cannons unleashing a calculated barrage aimed at disabling rather than destroying. Several shots connected, causing flickers of light to dance across the enemy's shields. "They're trying to disable us," Malik observed. "And we'll do the same," Renata replied. "Keep maneuvering, avoid their crossfire." The alien ships closed and the smaller vessel weaved in from behind, peppering the Dauntless with rapid bursts. "Hull stress at 17%, Cato called out. Renata gritted her teeth. "Engage evasive pattern Delta, don't let them box us in." The Dauntless banked hard, weaving between the two attackers. "Commander," Malik interrupted, "I'm detecting an unusual energy buildup near the alien ships, something different from their weapons." Renata frowned. "Explain." Malik's voice trembled. "It looks like a gateway, they're opening another rift." Renata's stomach dropped. "More reinforcements?" Cato shook his head. "No, it's different. This isn't just a ship, it's massive." Before Renata could respond, a colossal shadow emerged from the rift, a massive alien dreadnought, dwarfing even Vale's ship, phased into view. "By all the stars," Cato whispered. The dreadnought's angular hull bristled with weaponry, and energy pulsated ominously along its flanks. Vale's voice returned, colder than ever. "You will surrender, or you will be annihilated." Renata's crew stared at her, waiting for the impossible solution. Renata steadied her breath. "Send a priority distress signal to all Terran forces. We need every available ship." Malik complied, fingers flying over his console. Cato spoke softly. "Commander, even with reinforcements, we might not stand a chance." Renata stared at the dreadnought. "We still have time before they fire. Let's find out what they really want. Open a channel to Vale." The alien commander appeared on the screen, his expression unreadable. "Why us? Why now?" Renata asked. Vale's silver eyes narrowed. "Because your kind has disturbed the balance. Your expansion threatens us all. The Council will not allow humanity to spread unchecked." Renata's heart raced. "We can coexist. There's no need for war." Vale's lips curled into what might have been a sneer. "You may believe that, but others will not." Before Renata could respond, the screen flickered. A new figure appeared beside Vale, clad in ornate armor and bearing insignia more elaborate than Vale's. This alien's eyes burned with a chilling intensity. "I am Warlord Calith," the newcomer announced. "The Council grows impatient. Stand down or face eradication." Renata realized this was no longer a simple misunderstanding. This was a calculated show of force. "You fear our potential," she said softly. Calith's grin was predatory. "We fear nothing, but we control the tides of the galaxy. You are merely an inconvenience." Renata clenched her fists. "We will not be intimidated." Calith's gaze hardened. "Then prepare for extinction." The screen cut out. Renata turned to her crew. "Brace for impact and prepare for countermeasures. This isn't over." As the alien dreadnought charged its weapons, Renata knew the true battle for humanity's survival had only just begun. Cato's voice broke the silence. "Commander, multiple Terran ships just dropped out of hyperspace. Reinforcements have arrived." Renata allowed herself a brief flicker of hope. "Signal them to form a defensive perimeter. We're holding the line." The stars outside the viewport lit up as the battle began in earnest, a cataclysmic clash between two civilizations standing on the brink of war. The twin warships of humanity, the HSS Valor and HSS Vanguard, loomed over the scarred surface of Proxima b, their massive hulls partially illuminated by the nearby star. On the bridge of the Valor, Captain Myra Caldwell stood resolute, her posture betraying the tension surging through her veins. The holographic image of Admiral Drake flickered before her, casting a pale blue glow across the room. "Captain Caldwell." Drake's voice was steady but sharp. "The actions of the alien ship have left us no choice. We cannot retreat, not when we've come this far." Myra nodded grimly. "Understood, Admiral. We'll hold the line." Behind her, the crew scrambled to ready the ship's weapons and reinforce the shields. Tactical Officer Devin Slater analyzed the alien energy signatures, noting the fluctuating power levels of the approaching enemy fleet. "They're coming back, Captain," Slater announced. "Looks like they've mobilized their defense fleet, 15 ships, varying in size and power." Myra clenched her fists. The message from Commander Threx had been clear. The Alarian Imperium viewed humanity as a threat and was ready to escalate the conflict. On the other side of Proxima B, aboard the Alarian flagship Zor'vak, Commander Threx paced the length of the command chamber, his frustration mounting. They brought warships to a negotiation. What did they expect would happen? He growled. Sir? One of his sub-commanders interjected. Their technology is formidable. Our scouts reports suggest their ships can repel direct assaults. We need to alter our tactics. Threx rubbed his temple, weighing the options. His people had never faced a species capable of countering their weapons so effectively. The balance of power was shifting, and he knew it still. Retreat was not an option. Prepare the fleet, Threx ordered. We will strike at their flanks and force them into a defensive posture. As battle preparations commenced on both sides, Captain Caldwell found herself in a quiet moment on the observation deck, staring out at the swirling gas clouds of the nearby nebula. Lieutenant Slater approached quietly. Ma'am, Slater said, I've been running simulations. If they press from multiple vectors, our current formation won't hold. Myra sighed. What's your recommendation? We separate the Valor and Vanguard, lure them into the debris field from the orbital bombardments. It'll limit their maneuverability. Risky, Myra mused. But it might be our best shot. Let's do it. Within hours, the Valor and Vanguard executed their coordinated maneuver. The Vanguard, under Captain Elias Ward, veered toward the dense field of wreckage left from the Alarian orbital defense platforms, while the Valor maintained a steady course, drawing the attention of the bulk of Threx's fleet. As the battle erupted, streaks of plasma and kinetic rounds crisscrossed the void. The Valor's shields flared under the onslaught, but Myra's crew held firm. Meanwhile, the Vanguard weaved through the debris field, setting traps with hidden mines and ambush points. On board the Zor'vak, Threx's eyes widened as reports flooded in. The second human ship has vanished from our scanners. Impossible, a technician replied. Their energy signature was just there. Before Threx could respond, one of the smaller Alarian cruisers exploded in a brilliant cascade of light, the first victim of Captain Ward's ambush. Ward's voice echoed through the calms of his ship. Let's show them the price of underestimating humanity. The Alarian fleet fractured, caught between the two human ships in the chaos. The Valor punched through the enemy lines, taking advantage of gaps in their formation. Myra saw the opportunity and seized it. Target the Zor'vak, she ordered. Let's put an end to this. As the Valor's forward batteries charged, Commander Threx issued desperate counterorders. Redirect power to shields. Return fire. But Myra was relentless. The Valor's primary cannon discharged, sending a massive kinetic slug hurtling through space. The Zor'vak shuddered violently as the projectile tore through its hull, breaching several decks. Smoke and sparks filled Threx's command chamber as he steadied himself against the console. Commander, shouted one of his officers. We're losing containment in the reactor core. Threx knew they couldn't win this engagement. Gritting his teeth, he ordered a full retreat. All ships, fall back to the outer rim. As the Alarian fleet scattered, the Valor and Vanguard held their positions, battered but victorious. Aboard the Valor, the crew cheered, though Myra remained stoic. Stand down from combat readiness, she instructed. But keep sensors active. They'll be back. Back in the Zor'vak's damaged command chamber, Threx seethed. They're more dangerous than we anticipated, he muttered. We need reinforcements. He activated a secure communication channel, sending a priority message to the Alarian High Command. Inform the Council. Tell them, humanity is not to be underestimated. While the battlefield cooled and both sides licked their wounds, another player observed from afar. Deep in the shadows of a nearby asteroid belt, a cloaked vessel monitored the engagement, its crew silent and unreadable. We've seen enough, the vessel's commander said. The mysterious ship departed, unseen by either faction. Unknown to the warring sides, another force had taken interest in their conflict, one that could tip the balance in unforeseen ways. Back on the Valor, Captain Caldwell convened a meeting with Admiral Drake via secure hololink. Admiral, Myra began. They retreated, but they'll regroup. This isn't over. Drake nodded. We've made a statement. They now know humanity won't be pushed around. But it's more than that, Myra said. Their technology is advanced, but there's something they fear. I could sense it during the battle. Drake's expression darkened. We'll need to debrief and plan for the next phase. You and Ward held the line today. Captain, the Council will be pleased. I'm less concerned with the Council and more with the people counting on us, Myra replied. We'll be ready. As the connection ended, Myra stood alone, staring once more at the vastness of space. She knew that this was just the beginning. Humanity had taken its first real step into the galactic arena, and the war with the Alarian Imperium was far from over. But in the dark corners of the galaxy, other eyes watched, and other agendas stirred, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal themselves. Deep research. The night aboard the ISS Aegis was unnaturally quiet. Following the encounter with Commander Zor'vak, Captain Leona Krell stood alone in the observation deck, staring into the swirling abyss of stars, her reflection mirrored in the glass, the weight of responsibility pressing on her shoulders like a millstone. The peace talks were at a delicate impasse, and every choice she made would either bridge the divide between two species or shatter it completely. Miles away, in the depths of the Nixer dreadnought, Commander Zor'vak was equally troubled. He sat in his private quarters, the low hum of alien machinery filling the silence. The tension during their exchange lingered, and Krell's defiance puzzled him for all his years of military command and tactical supremacy. The humans were proving to be both resourceful and unpredictable. The loss of the frigate had stoked the ire of the High Ascendancy back home, pressuring him to strike hard and fast. However, the human captain's offer of peace, her calm amidst the brewing storm, gnawed at him. On the Aegis, the next morning began with Captain Krell convening a closed-session briefing with her senior officers. Commander Ethan Vance, flanked by Ensign Reyna Solari, Lieutenant Commander Hiro Tanaka, and Dr. Leoram Becky, leaned forward attentively. We have one opportunity to avoid all-out war, Krell began. Zor'vak's tone shifted before we broke contact. There's hesitation in their ranks, likely political. They expected a show of force, not diplomacy. Tanaka spoke next, arms folded. Our shields held, but barely. If the Nixer decide to escalate, we'll be outgunned. Vance interjected. But if we strike preemptively, we might solidify ourselves as aggressors in their eyes. Krell nodded. Exactly, which is why we need to send a different message. Dr. Becky, seated at the end of the table, adjusted her glasses. We've gathered enough data from our scans to isolate one of their communication frequencies. If we can patch into their internal network, we could learn more about the Nixer's intentions and political climate. Krell's expression darkened. You're suggesting espionage? It's a calculated risk, Becky replied. If we know what's dividing them internally, we can leverage it in negotiations. Vance nodded slowly. Could also backfire if they detect the intrusion. Krell took a deep breath. Let's prepare a probe. Low signature, passive, no active scans. In the hangar bay, the engineering team worked through the next cycle to retrofit a reconnaissance drone with cloaking tech borrowed from the Thunderbolt initiative. By nightfall, the probe was ready. Meanwhile, aboard the Nixer dreadnought, Zor'vak convened with his second-in-command, Subcommander Derelict. The two Nixer warriors stood inside a vast chamber adorned with holographic banners of the Ascendancy. The High Ascendancy demands action, Derelict said. Their patience wears thin. Zor'vak clasped his clawed hands behind his back, pacing. The humans are not the simple prey the Council portrays them to be. They are fractured, yes, but unified when it counts. They are inferior, Derelict snarled. Their technology is reverse-engineered scrap at best. And yet, Zor'vak countered, their ship endured our barrage. Their captain speaks not as a warmonger but as a strategist. Derelict tilted his head. Do you admire her? Zor'vak's eyes narrowed. I respect her, and that makes her dangerous. On board the Aegis, the probe launched in silence, slipping through the void toward the dreadnought. Within hours, it nestled into a blind spot between the Nixer ship's sensor arrays, undetected. In the command center, Becky and Solari worked to decode the alien transmissions as bursts of Nixer speech filtered through. Becky's algorithms pieced together fragments. Captain, Becky reported, we've intercepted Council orders to Zor'vak. The Ascendancy is divided. There's a faction within their leadership advocating for peace, fearing the humans could become valuable allies, but the militarist faction wants immediate conquest. Krell folded her arms. So Zor'vak's hesitation is political? Yes, Becky replied. He's caught between hawks and doves. In the midst of this revelation, alarms blared. Ensign Solari's eyes widened as she scanned her console. They've detected the probe. Cut the link, Krell barked. But it was too late. A sudden shift in the dreadnought's positioning revealed Zor'vak staring directly into the observation lens of the hidden probe. This is Commander Zor'vak. His voice thundered through the comms. You dare spy on us? The dreadnought powered its main cannon, energy swelling along its barrel. Evasive maneuvers, Krell ordered. The Aegis banked hard, veering away as the cannon discharged a beam of searing plasma. The energy grazed the aft shields, sending shudders throughout the ship. On the dreadnought's bridge, Derelict grinned. Shall we finish them? Zor'vak raised a hand. No, not yet. Back on the Aegis, Krell steadied herself. They're testing us, she muttered. Vance stepped forward. If they wanted us dead, we'd be space debris. Krell clenched her jaw. Prepare a response. I'll speak to Zor'vak directly. A tense silence filled the bridge as the human and Nixer ships faced off once more. When Zor'vak appeared on the main screen, Krell didn't waver. You're conflicted, Krell began. We know your leadership isn't unified. We've intercepted your transmissions. Zor'vak's eyes glinted with sharp intellect. Then you understand the gravity of your intrusion. We didn't come here to die, Krell said firmly. Nor did we come to enslave. We seek mutual survival. The galaxy is vast. Both our people can thrive. Derelict growled beside Zor'vak. She deceives us. End this. Zor'vak held up a clawed hand, silencing his second. You gamble much, human. Krell's voice softened. So do you. A long pause followed. Finally, Zor'vak spoke. Prepare for a neutral meeting. One ship, unarmed delegation. Krell exhaled, agreed. As communications ended, Krell turned to her crew. We've opened the door, now we walk through it. But as preparations began for the summit, deep within the Nixer dreadnought, Derelict whispered to a shadowed figure behind a partition. The Ascendancy will have its war, he said darkly. Unbeknownst to both commanders, forces beyond their control conspired to sabotage the fragile path to peace, and the true storm was yet to break. The confrontation between the DSS Infinity and the alien dreadnought intensified as both vessels drifted closer within the shattered remains of a broken asteroid belt. Captain Celine Ward stood firm on the bridge of the Infinity, her mind racing as she considered the implications of the escalating conflict across the expanse of space. Commander Varric observed the Infinity's defensive posture with equal determination. Status report, Celine ordered, her voice calm despite the tension thick in the air. Lieutenant Rayo responded quickly, his hands flying across the console. Shields holding at 70%, Captain. Weapons charged and ready to fire. The dreadnought has powered up additional weapons systems, but they're not firing yet. It's a standoff. Celine knew the next few moments would define not just their mission, but possibly the future of humanity's relationship with this enigmatic alien faction. With the fragile communications link still open, she made a decisive move. Put me through to Varric again. Moments later, Varric's visage reappeared on the viewscreen, his golden eyes burning with suspicion. Captain Ward, you persist. Why do you hesitate to engage, knowing we outmatch you? Celine held his gaze. Because I don't believe war is inevitable. We may have fired first, but you were the ones who escalated without offering to parley. We seek understanding, not conquest. Varric's eyes narrowed. You have much to explain. Before Celine could reply, a warning klaxon blared across the bridge. Captain? Rayo called out, his voice tight with urgency. Multiple unidentified signals incoming. They're dropping out of hyperspace, marking them as alien vessels, similar configurations to the dreadnought. On the main view screen, several more ships materialized from the void, sleek, angular designs that dwarfed even the dreadnought in scale. They took up formation behind Varric's vessel, their weapons glinting ominously in the dim light of distant stars. Celine's breath caught. This was an ambush all along. Varric's voice, now laced with authority, returned. Captain Ward, you have walked into the jurisdiction of the Sovereign Accord, and these reinforcements will ensure that your intentions are made clear. Power down your vessel and prepare for inspection. Celine clenched her jaw. And if we refuse? Varek's silence was answer enough. We don't stand a chance in a firefight, Rael muttered. Celine turned to her crew. Options? Talia's eyes were hard as steel. We could boost our engines, make a break through the asteroid debris. It's risky, but we might evade capture. Commander Sato shook his head. If they're scanning us, they'll anticipate that we could also attempt a gambit, appeal to their leadership directly or expose something they might value. Celine's mind raced. They couldn't flee, but neither could they surrender outright without understanding more about their captors. She addressed Varek. We're willing to discuss terms, but not under threat. Allow us safe passage to one of your neutral systems, and we will explain our presence. Varek folded his arms, considering. Our protocol dictates that intruders are detained, but your resolve intrigues me. I will summon the overseer. You will wait. As the screen went dark, Celine turned to her crew. Prepare for contingencies. We'll stall as long as we can. For hours, the Infinity sat surrounded by the looming vessels of the Sovereign Accord, their ships blotting out the distant stars like titanic sentinels inside the Infinity's briefing room. Celine and her senior officers strategized. We need more intel on this overseer, Sato pressed. Without understanding their political structure, we're negotiating blind, Talia added. We should also consider sabotage. If it comes to it, we could overcharge the Infinity's core and use it as leverage. Celine frowned. That's a last resort. I want every option explored before we put lives on the line. Back on the bridge, Rael suddenly straightened. Captain, we're receiving a priority transmission from the alien fleet. Patching it through. The viewscreen flickered to reveal a towering figure, draped in ceremonial armor and flanked by 2 honor guards. The overseer. His voice resonated with a calm authority. Captain Ward of the human vessel, I am Overseer Malachar of the Sovereign Accord. Explain yourselves. Celine stood tall. We are explorers from the Dominion of Sol. Our mission is peaceful. We came seeking to understand a signal originating from this sector. We did not expect hostility. Malachar's eyes narrowed. Peaceful? Yet you tread upon sovereign space and approach restricted artifacts. Celine's mind latched onto that. Artifacts? Are you referring to the signal source? We were unaware of any restrictions. The overseer's gaze sharpened. You encroached upon a relic of the architects, a sacred site to our people. Your ignorance does not excuse your transgression. Celine exchanged glances with Sato and Talia. This was bigger than they anticipated. We request permission to share our sensor data, Celine proposed. Let us prove that our goal was purely exploratory. Malachar hesitated, then gestured transmit. Rail swiftly forwarded their mission logs, focusing on the original signal, the exploration intent, and the lack of prior knowledge about the so-called relic. The overseer remained silent as he reviewed the data. After what felt like an eternity, he spoke. Your honesty is unexpected. Perhaps there is merit in further discussion. Captain Ward, I will summon you and 2 of your officers to our flagship. Any subterfuge will be met with immediate retaliation. Celine nodded. Understood. We accept your terms. As the channel closed, Celine turned to her team. Prepare to board. Choose carefully. We need minds who can negotiate but also survive. Talia and Sato exchanged glances and stepped forward. Rael added, Captain, be careful. We'll keep the Infinity ready for anything. With a deep breath, Celine readied herself to step into the heart of the alien fleet, where diplomacy or disaster awaited. Moments later, aboard the Sovereign Accord's flagship, Celine, Talia, and Sato were escorted into a grand chamber adorned with strange symbols and luminous carvings. Overseer Malachar stood at the center, flanked by a silent commander Varek. Welcome, Malachar intoned. Now let us decide if war or peace shall govern the stars. Celine steeled herself. The fate of 2 civilizations balanced precariously in this room, and every word to come would echo across the galaxy.